The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days, and neither had the ache in my chest. I sat in my car outside the county courthouse, watching water stream down the windshield, blurring the world into watercolor streaks of gray and brown. Inside my purse was a manila envelope containing divorce papers, signed and notarized. Inside my heart was a hollow space where my marriage used to be. I was 42 years old, and I felt like I was disappearing, becoming nobody, nothing. The woman in the mirror that morning had looked like a stranger wearing my face. 20 years of being Mark's wife and the twins. Mom had left me wondering who I was when those titles were stripped away. But I didn't know that in exactly 17 minutes, a girl I'd never met was about to save my life just by asking me to save hers. I was still sitting there, paralyzed by indecision about whether to walk those papers inside or drive away, when someone knocked on my passenger window. A teenage girl stood in the downpour, soaked to the bone, her mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. She couldn't have been more than 16. Her hands were shaking as she gestured frantically at the door. Against every cautious instinct my mother had ever drilled into me, I unlocked it. She collapsed into the seat, bringing with her the smell of rain and fear. "Please," she gasped, "just drive." "Please, just drive anywhere. I'll get out wherever, I promise. Just please." My hand was already on the key. "Are you in danger? Should I call the police?" "No!" Her eyes went wide with panic. "No police, please. I just need to get away from here, please." I started the car. Something in her voice bypassed every rational thought and spoke directly to that hollow space in my chest. Maybe that's what emptiness is good for, I thought. It leaves room for someone else's crisis to rush in and fill the void. We drove in silence for 10 minutes before she spoke again. "I'm Gabriella. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you." "Where am I taking you?" She stared at her hands. "I don't have anywhere." I should have taken her to a shelter, a church, somewhere with trained professionals and proper protocols. Instead, I heard myself say, "I have a guest room. That's how she came to stay with me." Just for a night, I told myself. Just until she figured things out. The night stretched into 3 days, then a week. Slowly, her story emerged in pieces. Fragments she'd dropped during dinner or while we folded laundry together. She'd run away from her foster home, the 4th one in 2 years. Not because they were cruel, she insisted, but because she couldn't bear being temporary anymore, couldn't stand feeling like a burden people accepted, out of obligation rather than love. She'd been heading to the bus station that rainy afternoon, planning to use her saved babysitting money for a ticket to anywhere else. Then she'd seen my face through my car window, and something made her knock. "You looked like you understood," she said quietly one evening, curled up on my couch with hot chocolate. "Like you knew what it felt like to be lost." She wasn't wrong. We were both ghost haunting our own lives. But here's what I didn't expect. Having her there made me visible again. I had to wake up at a decent hour to make breakfast. Had to grocery shop, plan meals, ask about homework. Remember that the world kept turning regardless of my pain. She needed me to be a person, not a hollow shell, and somehow that need began rebuilding me from the inside out. I started noticing things again. The way morning light hit the kitchen counter, the sound of her laughter when we watched old movies together, the fact that my garden, neglected for months, was trying desperately to survive despite my abandonment. We started weeding it together on weekends. There was something healing about putting our hands in dirt, about nurturing things back to life. 3 weeks in, there was another knock at my door. A woman stood there, middle-aged, with worried eyes and a worn cardigan. "I'm Sarah Chen," she said. "I'm Gabriella's caseworker. I've been looking everywhere for her." My heart dropped. Gabriella appeared behind me in the hallway, her face pale. But Sarah's eyes filled with tears when she saw her. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "I've been so worried." We sat in my living room, the 3 of us, and the truth spilled out. Sarah had been Gabriella's caseworker for 6 months, the only consistent adult in a system that kept shuffling the girl around. She'd been trying to find a permanent placement, fighting bureaucracy and overloaded systems, making call after call. But on the day Gabriella ran, Sarah's mother had died suddenly. She'd had to leave town for the funeral, had to step away right when Gabriella needed her most. "I thought you gave up on me too," Gabriella whispered. "I thought I'd been reassigned to someone else. I thought I was just another file on another desk." "You were never just a file," Sarah said fiercely. "You were never temporary to me. I was coming back. I always come back. We all cried then. Ugly, honest tears. And somewhere in that crying, something shifted. Sarah looked at me carefully. The foster home she ran from, they want to know if she's okay. But they also said they don't think they're the right fit. And I have to agree. Gabriella needs something different. She paused. I've seen a lot of placements, but the way she talks about being here with you in just these few weeks, she let the sentence hang. I'm divorced, I said automatically. Newly divorced. I'm barely holding myself together. I'm not qualified for this. None of us are qualified, Sarah said gently. We just love them and show up. That's all any kid really needs. Gabriella's hand found mine. You made me feel like I had a title, she said softly. Like I could be someone's something. Not foster kid, not temporary, just hers. Her, such a simple word, but it cracked something open inside me. All this time I'd been mourning the loss of my titles, my identities. Mark's wife, the twins' mom. But maybe identity wasn't something that happened to you. Maybe it was something you chose, something you built, something you became by showing up and loving people even when you felt empty. The paperwork took months, background checks and home studies and court dates. The twins, away at college, came home for Thanksgiving and fell in love with their new little sister immediately. Mark, surprisingly supportive, helped me repaint the guest room. Gabriella picked purple. Sarah became not just a caseworker, but a friend, stopping by for coffee, helping with homework, being the village that raises a child. And me? I became her. Not Gabriella's foster mom or legal guardian or any official title, just hers, the person who showed up, the one who stayed, the one who chose her just as completely as she'd chosen my car. Window on that rainy afternoon. On the day the adoption was finalized, we stood in a different courthouse, the same building where I'd almost filed divorce papers a year earlier. Gabriella wore a purple dress and couldn't stop smiling. Sarah stood beside us as our witness, beaming. The judge smiled kindly and asked if anyone wanted to say anything before she signed. Gabriella raised her hand like she was in class. Can I? Of course, dear. She turned to me, took both my hands. Thank you for letting me save you, she said. I know everyone thinks you saved me, but you were drowning too. We grabbed each other. We both held on. She wasn't wrong. We'd both been disappearing, both becoming invisible, both losing our titles and our identities. And somehow, in finding each other, we'd found ourselves. That night, we celebrated with pizza and ice cream and terrible karaoke in our living room. Sarah joined us, and the twins video called from school, and Mark stopped by with flowers. Our family looked nothing like a greeting card, nothing like the traditional picture I'd once imagined. It was messy and complicated and stitched together from broken pieces. It was also the most beautiful thing I'd ever been part of. Later, after everyone left, Gabriella and I sat in her purple room, and she showed me her school project. She'd had to write about someone who changed her life. I expected her to write about Sarah or maybe about me. Instead, she'd written about all of us. About how sometimes families aren't born, they're built. About how the bravest thing we can do is knock on someone's window and ask for help. About how the most heroic thing we can do is unlock the door. What title did you give me? I asked, pointing to the paper. For the assignment? She smiled. I didn't give you one. You gave one to me. I titled the whole thing Her, because that's what mattered. Not mom or guardian or any label. Just that I got to be hers and she got to be mine. I hugged her tight, this girl who'd saved my life by asking me to save hers. This daughter I'd found in a rainstorm. This family we'd chosen when the world felt like it was falling apart. Sometimes the most profound love stories aren't romantic. Sometimes they're about a woman sitting in a car, feeling invisible, and a girl brave enough to knock on the window. Sometimes they're about choosing each other when neither of you has anything left to give except your broken pieces and your stubborn hope that maybe together you could be whole. And sometimes the most important title you'll ever hold is simply this: Her, the person who shows up, the one who stays, the one who unlocks the door.